Superheroes, the ultimate symbols of strength, justice, and morality. They save cities, defeat villains, and restore peace, all within 2 hours. But what if I told you that, behind the mask, superhero movies might be shaping us in ways we don't even realize? From reinforcing dangerous power fantasies to desensitizing us to violence, these films could be subtly damaging our perception of the world. Today, we take a deep dive into the psychological and societal effects of the superhero phenomenon. One of the most enticing aspects of superhero films is the power fantasy. Audiences project themselves onto these godlike figures, invincible, morally righteous, capable of extraordinary feats. In psychology, this is called the ideal self, a version of us that is perfect, strong, and admired. But what happens when reality doesn't match this fantasy? According to social comparison theory, Festinger, 1954, people naturally measure themselves against societal ideals. The more unrealistic these ideals become, the more inadequate we may feel. Studies show that media portraying unattainable standards, whether in beauty, wealth, or heroism, can lower self-esteem and increase feelings of powerlessness. Superheroes make greatness seem effortless, making our own struggles feel insignificant. Look at the rise of the superhero physique. Actors undergo extreme transformations, spending months sculpting their bodies for roles. This has contributed to an increased pressure for young men to achieve unrealistic body standards, fueling gym culture, supplement industries, and even steroid use. When power is equated with physical dominance, it can distort perceptions of masculinity, leaving many feeling less than in comparison. Superhero films often portray a single extraordinary figure swooping in to save the world. This fuels what psychologists call the savior complex, a belief that a powerful entity, rather than collective action, is needed to fix problems. While inspiring on screen, this idea can be psychologically damaging in the real world. When people feel that only powerful figures, whether a hero, politician, or billionaire, can bring about change, they may develop a state of learned helplessness. According to psychologist Martin Seligman, repeated exposure to situations where we feel powerless can make us less likely to take action. Superhero films reinforce this passive mindset, subtly suggesting that unless we possess extraordinary abilities, our individual efforts don't matter. Think about how the media frames real-world crises. People often wait for a leader to emerge rather than engaging in grassroots activism. The superhero narrative, while thrilling, conditions us to expect top-down solutions rather than community-driven change. This passive mentality can hinder social progress, making people spectators rather than participants in their own reality. Superhero films are packed with high-stakes battles. Cities are leveled, buildings collapse, and entire populations are endangered. But what's missing? The consequences. Unlike war films or dramas, superhero movies rarely explore the human cost of this destruction. Research in psychology shows that repeated exposure to fictional violence can reduce emotional sensitivity to real-world suffering. A study by Anderson and Bushman, 2002, found that media violence can lead to desensitization, making people less empathetic toward real victims of war, crime, or tragedy. In superhero films, destruction is portrayed as spectacle rather than catastrophe, subtly conditioning audiences to see large-scale violence as normal. Take Man of Steel, 2013. Superman's battle with Zod results in massive destruction, yet the emotional toll is barely addressed. Critics argued that the film glorified destruction while failing to acknowledge its human impact. This reflects a broader trend in superhero cinema, the glorification of spectacle over substance. Superhero films thrive on the classic good versus evil binary, but real life isn't that simple. Most conflicts arise from complex socio-political, economic, or psychological factors. By constantly reinforcing black and white morality, superhero films can encourage us versus them thinking, making people less willing to understand opposing perspectives. Philosophers argue about two moral perspectives: moral absolutism, clear right and wrong, and moral relativism, morality depends on context. Superhero films tend to favor absolutism, which can fuel divisive thinking. In today's world, where polarization is at an all-time high, these simplistic narratives may contribute to the growing inability to engage in nuanced discussions. Look at how superhero rhetoric has influenced political discourse. Leaders are often framed as either saviors or villains, with little room for complexity. This mindset makes compromise difficult, as people become more focused on defeating the other side rather than understanding it. Superhero films aren't inherently bad. They inspire, entertain, and offer powerful messages, but their unchecked influence raises important questions about how they shape our psychology and society. Should we rethink how we engage with these stories? Comment below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the hidden psychology of media.